Hello, everyone. I'm super excited about giving this presentation today. And if you've ever seen one of my presentations, this is going to be a little bit different than any of those. I'm actually probably doing something that's against my own best practice. And so these slides are going to have a lot of words on them. I usually try to have more images than words, but I wanted this not just to be a presentation, but to be a guide and a checklist that you can take from now and into the future. So there's going to be a lot of things that are going to be written down, but it's okay. You don't have to worry about taking notes. I'm going to include a QR code at the very end. So you can just click on that at the end and be able to use that and print it out if you need to. So thank you for this time. And please just give me a little leeway because of all the words, but let's go ahead and get into it. All right. So this is how to audit your DevRel program. And it says insights for leaders and managers because this is meant not just for the DevRel practitioner specifically, meaning that if you're starting a program, this is something that you should probably go through and make sure you have this information before you hire someone for DevRel. Or if you're new to DevRel, these are ways to tune your program. So DevRel is not static. It's extremely bespoke and it's very malleable depending on the specific vertical you're targeting, the type of industry you're targeting. And it's great to review this even if you've been doing DevRel for a while to make sure that you're covering all the bases because the way that you started, your priorities, your focus, your thoughts could have definitely shifted to what it is today. So this is something I would recommend that you do probably once a year, once every other year if you can, or as often that you think that you need. All right. The question is, who am I? Why should you listen to me? So my name is Wesley Faulkner. I was a product development engineer for over 5 years, working with companies that are small development houses to development shops all around the world, India, China, even domestically here in the United States. Worked with large OEM vendors to very small independent contractors. So, in terms of gathering information, doing integration, and doing assessments and keeping track of priorities, that's something that I did for a very long time. And then after that, I moved into marketing, and that was for nonprofits, that was for startups, that was for large enterprises, medium-sized companies, even agencies. So I've seen it all. I've seen when you have no resources and what you can do from with a very scrappy budget to extremely large budgets to understand how do you make sure you scale and make sure that you are making the adjustments based on the vast amount of feedback you're getting. And for the last 6 years, I've been working in developer relations, mostly in tech companies, but also my passion is to just elevate the role of DevRel, not just for the companies that I work for, but the practice itself to make sure that people are equipped with the information, with the knowledge, with the resources, with the counseling, with the mentorship that is needed to make sure DevRel is done right. And this presentation, as I said, is going to be a little bit of an eye chart. So we're going to have a lot of words, and I'm going to cover these 4 areas. We're going to talk about web reviews. We're going to talk about repeated events, structure, goals, and metrics. Now, these are going to be areas where there's a lot of opportunity to do a lot of work and could take you a long time. But I made an MVP version of this. So each chart is going to have a little check mark next to it. That's going to be an indication to you that this is basically the thing that you actually have to do. If you don't have the bandwidth of doing everything, make sure that you hit those check marks for each one. And I have a lot of content and not a lot of time, so let's just get into the web review. Okay, web review. When you are being introduced to a program, a service, or even a company, you go to the website, and developers don't have a lot of time. Developers are so busy. So if they're not able to get the information just at a glance, then you're already set up as a disadvantage that they may not even click or convert or learn more about you. So let's start with your own website, and what does your website say about you? And for these on this list, I want you to do it 3 times. The first time, load up the web page on a standard browser and don't scroll. Then go through the list and then see how many of these can you check off in terms of your understanding without scrolling. So this is going to be a first impression type of review. Then go through it a second time, but this time you can scroll as much as you want up and down the page and see how much of this information you're able to gather just from the website itself, no other information. And the third time, go through this list, but now you can click through the website. You can go through the menus. You can read everything that you can from clicking through. So don't type in search. Don't type in any keywords or anything like that. Just anything that you can move and navigate with your mouse is what you're limited to. And then see what information you can get from that. And let me tell you why you do this. So this tells you when you're looking at a company, even if it's yours or even someone else's, if you're doing competitor research, it shows what their emphasis is. Are they trying to focus on the things that you checked on the first list as opposed to the second list or the third list? Those are basically what their priorities are, just by the mere fact that you can gain that information just from that individual list. Now, when I talk about some of these things, what you want to think about, like what does the company do? Are they in the software business, or is this a side hustle? Is this really a company, or this is an individual? Is this a startup, or is this a project, or is this a real company? Who are the products for? You want to think about, are there any specific roles that are being targeted? Is this for technical, non-technical? Is this for United States only, or are they compliant with GDPR and the EU and their regulations? Is it segregated to healthcare? Is it HIPAA compliant, for instance? Is this for any size company, large company, small company, enterprise, hobbyist, for a student? You want to be able to tell this information from just doing this exercise. You also want to know, what is the cost of the product or services that the company is selling. This is yours or someone else's. Is there a trial? Is there a free version? Is there a credits that you get issued once a month, or once you're done with the credits, then you have to pay? All of those are really important to figure out from the website. Can you run this on-prem, or does this need do you need to tie it to some sort of cloud provider? If this is for development, what languages are supported? Is it Python, C Sharp? Is this just for web front end, web back end, databases? That's the type of information you want to be able to look through and gather. You also want to see how updated this product or service is. Are there change logs? Are there release notes? These are things that you should check from the website. Okay. And remember, you're going to do that 3 times. Next, you want to look at the web in general. You want to see what the product doesn't do well. What is the web saying about that? Are there tutorials training on YouTube or on Dev2 or any other websites? You want to check in with validators. There are people who are really embedded in the space, are held in high regard. Some might even say influencers. But many of them may be friends of yours. So you can reach out to the friends who are in the database space, if this is the database product, in the cloud space, if this is a cloud product, and is in the open source space, if they're in open source, and ask them, what do you think of this product? What is your impression? What do you feel like they're doing right? What are they doing wrong? Would you use this product? What is the buzz around this product? So use those validators of the people that you know to be able to understand where the product fits or the company fits and what they're saying, to get a good feel of what the community has to think about this product. You want to do a generic search. Is this ranked at the top? Is this at the bottom? Is it even on the first page? If people are switching, where are they switching from? Who are they going to? Those are very important if people are leaving or coming into, and you can get a sense of that by just doing a general search. All right, number 2, repeated events. So are you reinventing the wheel over and over again? Are you learning? Are you evolving? Or are you stuck in the same place? What you want to do is there's things that you know you're going to be doing regularly, like quarterly reports, allocating budgets, going to conferences, putting on webinars, that sort of thing. But you want to know if you're releasing a new product, there's a playbook, there are steps, there are people you need to inform. Is that written down somewhere? If it is written down somewhere, does everyone agree on that process, both in your department or any departments you work with? If you go to conferences, do you have to set up a booth? Do you set up a QR code? Do you print out handouts? Do you get swag? There needs to be playbooks for all these things that you're doing over and over again. Checklists are really great. That's why I kind of put this in checklist format, because you want to make sure that you're hitting all the things so you don't have any wasted work. You don't have to think about this stuff. And then when you reevaluate your approach, everyone can chime in on things that went right and things that went wrong. And so you can keep improving and iterating on the process. So that's what you want to do, is look at your internal things that you can control, and make sure that there are playbooks for all of those. And if you run into one that doesn't have a playbook, please approach it from a collaborative standpoint of bringing everyone in, making sure that they agree, and everyone has a chance to chime in on what should be changed. There are also external events that you'll do regularly. There is GitHub Universe. There are partner events, like if you do plugins for a certain suite, if you're an open source and you are like a fork off a main project, you want to make sure that the partner conferences are things that you go to and you're aware of. You want to make sure there's a playbook for making sure that it's paid up on time if you need to get space. The CFPs are submitted if you want to speak there. That you reach out to your partner connections, so you can, when you're at the event, have some face-to-face time and meetings to talk to the other partners in the region. Same with industry news, government, regulation, any type of feedback. You want to make sure that there's a process for the things that you don't control. When they do happen, that you can pull the playbook off the shelf, at least, to know how you can at least make sure you're getting the most out of it, and the people who are internal that need to be informed are informed. All right, third, we're going to talk about structure. Now, structure is not just how you're organized, but how you even think about it mentally. So the mental structure of your DevRel program. Now, as the previous slide said, DevRel is a department, not a person. And so all of these roles need to be done. Sometimes there's only one person in the department and they have to check all these boxes. But sometimes you are thinking about headcount to expand to, or ways that you can really focus on specific areas. But you need someone who's dedicated to strategic leadership that needs to be assigned. I know there's a lot of, we need this type of content, we need these types of videos, and that's really focus on execution. But without strategy and leadership, sometimes that work can go wasted. So there are ways to amplify that work, and you want to make sure that that is tied into strategic thought, and making sure that someone is actually dedicated and responsible for doing that. If there's too many people who's in charge of strategy, they will diverge and you won't get the cumulative effect of everyone moving in the right direction. You want to make sure you're focused on community. How are you integrated with the community? How are you working with the community? That's extremely important. Documentation. I mean, some would say that's the heartbeat of the developer love language. You need to make sure that you have documentation ready, and that it's regularly updated, and that it's accurate. And if there are people who are saying that there are problems, make sure you address that. But if no one's in charge and you only get to it when you get to it, it falls down the priority list because it feels less important usually. but have someone who's a point person either to do it themselves or responsible for delegating that work out. Another is developer experience, and I think some people use that as a buzzword or a throwaway term, but you want to see how your program works for people who aren't used to it. Go into incognito mode, try signing up, choose the workflow, act like on a very fresh system or a very new cloud account. How does it integrate? What are the things that are missing? What is not in documentation? What feedback do you get? How do you send bugs? How do you download code samples? You want to figure out what the developer experience is to make sure that it is what you're expecting, because your 1.0 version, and if you have iterated over time, the out of box experience is something that you want to re-audit. And so you want to make sure someone is dedicated to make sure that there's a cohesive journey for the developer. And in case you missed it or you haven't heard of it, DevRel Ops. Someone who takes track of metrics, someone who sets up the tools, someone who makes sure that logs are accounted for travel and getting debriefs done, postmortem, someone who's in charge of making sure webinars work correctly or all of the stuff that's behind the scenes. DevRel Ops is something that's extremely important. Most people do their own DevRel Ops, but I've seen for especially larger companies having a dedicated role for DevRel Ops. And then different departments. The way when I say structure, where does DevRel live? I'm sure you've heard of that discussion. Does it live in engineering, product, marketing? What you want to do is in where DevRel sits, you want to expand out and understand the objectives of those greater departments. If you're engineering, understand outside of DevRel, what our engineering goals are, what our products goals are, what our marketing's goals are outside of DevRel. So what is everyone else focusing on except for DevRel? And make sure you have a really, really clear understanding of that. And then for the other departments that you don't directly work under, you still need to be a cohesive center of knowledge and understand how you can be a force multiplier for both sales, support, or any other department that's in the company, even if you don't feel that you have a direct link to them. And then ask them also what they think DevRel is for. So sometimes the impression is off. People don't know DevRel. You think that you're doing the right thing. You think you're focusing on the right things, but sometimes you don't know that the impact you're having is not aligned to the impact they're expecting. So setting expectations by understanding what people think DevRel is. You want to understand how decisions are made. If you need to be a change agent for the company, push forth a new ambitious protocol that will help because you have kind of an overview of what every part of the company is doing and you know this initiatives would help everyone. It's really important to know how decisions are made for each of the department and all the way up to the C-suite. And you want to, and especially the C-suite, you need to know if it's stable or not. Is there a lot of turmoil? Are people worried? That sort of thing is something you should also include in your audit, just to make sure that you're not assuming that what one leader says today will be the same leader making that same priority in the future. Next is the big one, goals and metrics. And this is going to be a little bit different than what you're thinking. But you want to make sure that you're making impact, right? So this part is important. So I'm going to talk about goals and metrics apart from what you've heard before, view counts, conversion, all that stuff. I'm assuming you know all of that. What I want to talk about is the evolution of what your focus is as a company, depending on the age of your company. If you're a brand new sector like LLMs or blockchain or something that's a net new technology that no one's heard of, because those are once new, even cloud computing was new, you'll need to do a lot of education to let people know that you exist, that this software exists, the solution exists, and educate them about why it's a game changer to what they're already doing. If you're past the point of education, people know what LLMs are, then you need to move into awareness. Do people know your company exists, your products exist, being in the right places to make sure that your name is out there and there is some association with your name so people even know that you are even a possibility in consideration. Later on, you'll move into differentiator. People know your name now, but how are you different than X or better than Y? You need to find your your wedge issue, in which people are objectively choosing you over the competition if they fall into a certain bucket or have these certain things that they're looking for. So you want to make sure that you move into the differentiator phase if people are aware that you exist. Then relevance. You want to make sure that people understand that you are still good, even though you've been in the game for a long time. So relevance is really, really important to keep showing up and making sure that you're making the adjustments from the feedback from the people, what they say and what they need. You want to make sure that your efforts are based in short term, medium term, and long term. Some people only focus on the short term. It's important to invest in all three areas. And that also is kind of moved into whether or not they think you are reactive to what the market is doing, or you're proactive in terms of your strategy and planning to make sure that you are doing the things that you want to do instead of just putting out fires over and over again. And that's my presentation. Sorry for the lot of text. Here's the QR code. Please take the time to download it, review it, and you can reach me at wesleyfaulkner.com if you have any questions, if you're not here in the live Q&A. Thank you.